And I'm hoping that this subject of fish will bring in some important areas of diet, of the great sort of benefits, the rich benefits of eating fish. And one thing Victoria and I were also talking about, which is, I think you've got it there, the Good Fish Guide. Maybe we could hold it up somewhere. Let's have a look here. Yes. This, and I think I will be mentioning when you get the recipes, that you can also get a little app which shows you really simply how to identify what's, it's the same people, the Marine Stewardship Council, a really good, trustworthy organization. Even if you've seen Seaspiracy, you can trust which is an awful film about how dreadful the fish industry is. Not all of it is. There's some amazing little boats down in Cornwall producing wonderful line-caught mackerel, and there are also some great fishermen all over the world too. Okay, so we could cram in so much into this 1 hour session, but we sort of stripped it back a bit. So you're going to get quite a number of recipes and we'll talk about them, but we're actually only going to do 5 things rather than the 20 that I had in mind. And the very first thing, 20. Oh, I got to say some other things.
Yes, you got to say, who am I?
Who are you?
So I'm Victoria.
I'm not Victoria, I'm Barney.
And I'm Victoria. And so I'm joining Barney today from Brohn, UK, which is a cancer centre charity looking at a lot of different ways that we can help ourselves along the cancer journey. Food is just one of them. The charity's been going on for around about 40 years now, and we run on a donation-only basis, but our services are free. And I've worked for Brohn for around about 22 years as a nutritional therapist, so I really wanted to come and work alongside Barney, because we both understand that whilst food is really important for their nutritional basis and components, it has a fantastic and important mind-body-spirit connection to play as well, which is going to switch on your immune system, which is going to help you along your cancer journey. And just before we get started, I have a little bit of a housekeeping to say. I think there's a poll at the beginning, which would be great if you could do that. This session is going to be recorded. We have a chat box, so if you could use the chat box, that would be really helpful to hear questions. After the session is finished, we've got links to do with Brohn if you feel we can be of greater help to you, and also the recipes are going to be sent out. What else we got? There's going to be a poll just before the end, see how you've improved or changed your mind or whatever according to our session. And before we go, and you can remind me about this, we're going to tell you what next month is all about, and to remind you, please, to tell others about what's going on here, because the more, very much more, the merrier. Okay, we can get started now.
Thank you, Victoria. Sorry, I forgot about all that stuff. I was so eager to start wittering on about fish and cooking some fish.
Not surprising, because it all looks splendid.
So we're going to do a couple of dishes with mackerel, one smoked and one fresh. We're going to do a dish with some wild Alaskan salmon with a wonderful sauce called Salsa Verde. You may well have come across it before. And the brilliantly simple sardines on toast with a little bit of a twist, and a delicious Indian fish stew, which I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is to make it, and even more about how delicious it is.
And I think in this session, we're doing one dish at a time. Is that right?
We are going to do one dish at a time, rather than several all at once. Yes. So here is the humble mackerel smoked from Sainsbury's or any supermarket. So all the fish I got today did come from a supermarket, because I thought, well, that's going to be possibly, you would agree, wouldn't you, Victoria? For most people, it's the obvious source of fish that you're going to buy to eat. But I do feel like if you can find a fishmonger that you can trust, it's a really great relationship to have. And I believe in independence. I believe in independent fruit and veg stores, as well as fishmongers and butchers and bakers and all the rest of it. As much as we can support those people, so much the better. But in any case, we all use supermarkets, and so it is. So I've got 2 lovely fillets of smoked mackerel. The pin bone's been taken out. This is probably one of the simplest dishes ever. I'm going to just take the skin off. I might just move that slightly to the middle here.
Could you do this with other fish as well?
Yeah,
Sardine
good question. Sardines, you could do it with smoked sardines. You could certainly do it with smoked trout. Most people have got near them a source of trout, both fresh and smoked. It's really good. It's full of the right nutrients, but also it's really cheap and it's sustainable as well. So I've just broken this smoked mackerel up very roughly, a bit more now with a fork. You can see what I'm doing here. Simple, and it's almost hardly worth showing you, except because it's so simple. Then I'm going to put in it. This looks like a kind of elephant foot, doesn't it? You can almost see it's kind of strange shape. It's actually it's horseradish, which is the root of a plant that grows in fields quite a lot, and you could quite easily buy it grated and creamed in a supermarket. You're not likely to be able to get through this much. We've got it because we run a cookery school. So I think that's probably about enough. But
if you were going to use some horseradish sauce, would you just use a teaspoon?
Yeah,
or?
a teaspoon. It's in the recipe, but
Okay.
It's a good question. You can smell that. It's really fiery, isn't it?
Fantastic. Absolutely.
It's
and
just
pungent. And pungent is really helpful for the liver, supporting your liver.
Is it? Yeah. And you were going to say something, Victoria, about the various minerals and vitamins in some fish.
One of the things I was looking at this dish and some of the others you're doing, it's what we would call an oily fish. An oily fish, mackerel, trout, sardines, anchovies, they're all really important for essential fatty acids. And surprise, surprise, essential fatty acids are essential for us because we can't make them ourselves. We have to get it from the food that we eat. Omega-3 is really rich in the oily fish, and that's a great anti-inflammatory for us. So a good lot of oily fish per week, I would suggest, should be in your diet. And tastes fantastic, but it's not only good for anti-inflammatory, it's really good for your skin, it's really good for your brain function, it's really good for your skin integrity. So we do need it on a regular basis. So the oily fish, I think, is helpful to get quality, but also part of your everyday diet.
Good. Could you just bash this? I'm going to just go and find some yogurt from India.
And the essential fatty acids, they're going to be in there, whether it's tinned or whether it's fresh. So fresh is great, but if you can only use the tinned, then that would still be beneficial. One of the fishes which aren't quite so helpful to us as far as tinned is concerned is tuna, because it's such a large fish. Actually, there isn't a lot of essential fatty acids left once it's been canned down. It also, sadly, is one of the more toxic fishes that we could buy to eat because it's so big and all the other fishes get toxin.
You mean from the ocean itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you get there while I was mashing away?
I've got some yogurt, this rather huge container here. You buy everything in bulk. You won't have something like this, but you can either use creme fraiche or yogurt, but yogurt's, it's lighter, obviously.
And that sourness is going to take some of the oiliness out,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I'm also going to put some lemon in here. Like that.
Just do me a little favor and put a little bit of the zest in as well.
I will.
Because the zest of lemon has got something called limonene in it, and limonene comes from lemons, hesperotin comes more from an orange, but that actually has quite a lot of benefit to you as far as what we would call an anti-cancer property is concerned, helping us in other ways to support the immune system. So a little bit of limonene going in. If you get into the habit of doing that, what I often suggest is grate the whole lemon, putting in a little bit of ice cubes, and just freeze it in the freezer, take it out for when you want it in the future.
Such a good idea, that. Yeah, same. Well, we're going to be using ginger, but I often freeze down chopped garlic, chopped ginger, putting a bit of pepper in, by the way, everybody. Just adds it.
That's black pepper, just to say, has a compound called piperine in it. Piperine has the ability to help you with the absorption of a lot of nutrients. So just always is a good idea and a good habit to sprinkle your food with a bit of black pepper just to improve that absorption. And it's lovely anyway, isn't it? I love black pepper.
Okay, I'm going to put that on a plate instead of a bowl.
So what have we got? We've got black pepper, lemon, mackerel.
Pepper, lemon, mackerel, and yogurt.
And yogurt.
How simple is that? We're going to serve that with some toast, I think. I made some lovely bread. I'm going to send the recipe for this bread. Look at this loaf, made in a casserole pan. It's called a Dutch oven. It's a lovely way of cooking bread. But anyway, we're going to do some toast with those things. I might just have to just put a little sprig of parsley on top. No, that looks awful, doesn't it, Eloise? That was a bad idea. A bit 80s. So we'll come back to that. I'll show you what.
Having said that, though, parsley, do you want to use for your minerals?
Oh no, we're going to use loads of parsley.
Definitely,
it's a very good thing. But it's funny how all our habits and fashions change when it comes to food as much as everything else. And put that there for now.
What's number 2 then?
Number 2 is going to be pan-fried mackerel with a wonderful little soy sauce dip, which I absolutely love, and it's incredibly simple. So,
and again, can this be done with various fish?
Yep, it could be done with bream, with salmon. Oily, it goes well with oily fish actually, as a sort of foil to the oiliness, because it's going to be piquant with chili in it, and ginger. So we've got here, look how simple this is: ginger, chili, spring onions, soy sauce, rice wine vinegar, and the tiniest bit of sugar, if I've got any anywhere. I think I had a little bit of sugar. Yes, just a tiny bit of sugar. So I'm going to put the sugar in here like this. Just heating this pan up for the mackerel. That's enough. Just to give it a little sweetness. Hardly needs any. Then the vinegar, which is going to help dissolve.
Is that the rice vinegar?
That's the rice vinegar.
Is that also what you refer to as mirin?
No, mirin is the soy fermented soy sauce.
Right. Okay.
So mirin is this isn't actually mirin. This is just an ordinary soy sauce. Mirin is
tamari as well.
Tamari, yes, you can. Yeah. Yes, you're right. That's what I meant actually. Anyway, that's just dissolved in this vinegar. There we are. And I'm going to put some ginger in there.
So the ginger is really, really helpful as an antibacterial, but it's also really good for if anybody's feeling a bit nauseous, maybe through treatment. It's one of the ones that we would probably go to first as far as Penny Brohn is concerned. Ginger juice or putting ginger in your cooking or even having ginger biscuits can really slow down the mechanism of your stomach telling your brain you feel sick. And that's why it's really helpful for its anti-nausea qualities.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm suddenly aware of when you talk in that way is that this is also about eating in a more mindful way, isn't it?
Yes,
so paying attention, I never think about those sorts of things when I'm normally eating. But actually, we should all have times when we're paying attention to what we're eating.
That goes back to actually understanding the history of food and sometimes how other cultures and other times gone by have used their food, because they knew so much. We can learn a lot from the Romans and the Greeks.
We can. And I'm going to put
What was the red?
Sorry, the red was some chili. I normally use green chili just for the color. I don't know why. But anyway, I've got some red chili and it's fine. So I've got all those ingredients in. And I'm just going to let the sugar dissolve for a bit. And meanwhile, somewhere I've got a blue board to put my fish on. But you don't need a blue board. If you've got any plastic chopping boards, Eloise knows I'm going to go on about wood. Get rid of your plastic chopping boards, use wood. But if you've got, I suppose if you've got one, already got a plastic board, you better keep it because it's wasteful otherwise. But wood's the way forward, isn't it? Health and happiness. Right, so pepper and salt. Turn it over, and I'm going to just put a tiny drizzle of oil on the fish, like this.
On the fish rather than
On
in
the
the pan,
fish,
is
and
it?
then a tiny bit.
In the pan.
It's better on the fish. I'm going to put that in there like that. Now, can the camera make out the pan? Good.
That's a lovely sound. And it's
a
an
lovely
important
sound.
sound as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That sizzle is just when you know it's the right sort of temperature, not too hot, nice
Yeah.
gentle sizzle.
Don't touch it.
So, is it to put the skin down first?
Yes. So we're going to cook this fish almost entirely just like that. Notice I haven't, apart from just lifting it very slightly then, I haven't touched it at all. This is really important with cooking fish, that you don't touch it, and also that you start by cooking it with the skin down. And I'm going to tell you why you do that in about 5 minutes. And if anybody wants to have a guess, why would you not cook it with the flesh side down first? That's the question, but we'll just maybe
Wait in
wait in
anticipation.
anticipation. I'll expect somebody to come up with an answer to that. Because, anyway, we don't need that anymore, do we? And now I've said, Victoria, actually, I did say that we were going to do one dish at a time, didn't I? But I am going to, since I'm doing some fish prep, I am going to just have a quick look at this salmon. So this salmon we're going to bake. But one of the things that supermarkets get really wrong when they put salmon on their shelves is that they leave the scales on the skin. And when the scales are on the skin with a small piece like that, you'll never get them off. And so you can't eat the scales of fish. It's horrible. They are horrible. So I'm going to have to take the skin off these fillets of fish. It's actually really easy to do. You just flat blade of the knife, give it a go, running along like that. It's much easier than you think. It looks as if it's being clever and it's not. So I've just taken that piece of skin off. It's a shame because there's a lot of goodness in the skin, but the scales are just horrible, so you wouldn't want to eat them. And I don't know why supermarkets do that. I think it's because it looks prettier with the scales on, because it's brighter and more fishy looking, I suppose. Anyway, there we are. I'm going to put those back in there, actually. And we'll come to that in a minute. Right, so let's have a look at this mackerel. It's produced quite a lot of fat, that's coming out of the mackerel itself. You can see there's more fat than I put in oil. So
What temperature are you doing that on, Bunny?
it's on quite sort of medium low. It's on 4. If any of you got induction hobs. So yeah, definitely low. You start off quite high and then turn it down. So hot enough to almost be smoking to put the fish in, and then turn it down and just let it sit there. So let's come back to the sauce that we were just doing. Somewhere.
Yep.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. There's the sauce. Let's forget where I put things. So maybe eating this fish is going to help me remember, do you think, where I put something? Where are my keys? Oh, I just eaten some
Fish. 65% of our brain is made up of fat.
What
So
have
it
you
is
done
oil.
with, that's where it is. Oh, I see, it's nuclear oil.
It's neat. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
okay, good.
trying to
That's
be
it.
neat.
You're trying to be helpful. Right, soy sauce in with this little dip. You just know it's going to be nice, don't you? I mean, it's going to smell, it already smells lovely. That ginger and the chili and the vinegar and the,
If anybody
the
had
soy
any
sauce.
wheat allergy, then I would go for tamari soy
Yes,
sauce, which
exactly.
is going to be wheat free. And that's fermented for around about 3 years. And one of the things that's going to be really helpful for your microbiome or your gut flora is to try and regularly have some fermented food. So that's a very easy way of putting in some fermented food to be able to support you with your gut.
yeah. So this is not a labor of love, but you can see it's taking its time. I'm going to pour off some of this fat actually, because there's just a bit too much in there. See how it's coming along? You can see that it's beginning to go paler around the bottom bit, and that's where it's cooking. It's coming up through the skin. So now I'm going to tell you, so that you don't have to worry about not knowing it anymore, why you cook it with the skin side down. And that is because the skin protects the flesh from drying out and therefore not being as succulent and delicious. And you also benefit from having a lovely crispy skin, I hope, as you can see. So another minute or two, and it's going to be done, I think.
One question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not fish related, but so my mum has pancreatic cancer and is suffering with diarrhea, but wants to eat nutritious fruits and vegetables. Which fruit and veg can you recommend?
If you've got loose stools, then I would suggest that we have a little bit of bitter and pungent, a little bit of watercress. Actually, you've got watercress coming in later on. Rockets, just to be able to help the liver with its digestive process. And then really the best thing is to have as much colour as you can get. So you've got an array of nutrients coming your way to be able to support you. It could just be that your gut flora is got out of balance as well. So it's not just what's best to eat, but the much variety is going to support your digestive system. But if you've got any other queries like that, particularly looking at your own lifestyle or the way you're actually eating or in treatment, then
What about fruit? What fruit?
I would say that the fruit, I would keep more to your vegetables rather than the fruit. The fruit is a very fast transit food, so although it's very beneficial for us, too much fruit can send your blood sugar levels going up and down a little bit, and also increase the motility of the gut. So they might be quite so helpful.
Right. That's interesting.
Tell me, Eloise, if I've answered that. If you type back saying, have I answered it enough? I'll think of other ideas as well.
So look, there is the finished product. I've just literally turned it over just then, about 5 seconds ago. I'm going to leave it for another 10 seconds, and then I'm going to turn it back over. I think that's enough. Onto the skin side down again. So literally 10 seconds there, and you can see it's pretty well cooked. I'm just going to give it another 2 minutes.
So can you help me here, Barney, because I'm a bit confused. I know that it's going to taste absolutely lovely, and I love the skin idea. Are you removing the skin from the salmon just because it's being baked? Or just
because it's got I wouldn't have removed it at all, but it's got scales on it.
Okay.
Because they don't. If I bought some salmon, I would buy it whole, and as you've seen in fishmongers, they take the scales off. But for some reason, supermarkets, and I think it's because it looks prettier with the scales on, but they don't take the scales off.
Differentiating there between scales and skin.
Exactly. Yeah. So certain fish are scaly fish, and salmon is one of them. So there is our lovely pan-fried mackerel. That out of the way. I'm going to use the same pan. I just realised I use the same pan for the oven, the salmon. So I'm going to put right at the end. I'm going to put this sauce on so that it won't look too flat. But that's basically it. That's so simple. Great with a mustardy potato salad with some or some spinach. Put that there.
I think going back to you, Eloise, for that question as well, I've just thought of another aspect to take on board, and that is that we all have an ability, or our bodies will cope with different pungencies as an individual. So with that sauce, I was just thinking about the chili. For some person, that could be too much chili. For the person, it's just right. So we do have to find our own levels as far as the food is concerned as well.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So I'm going to this is going to be baked in some parchment. George, do you think you could grab me a bit of parchment from just round there. Thank you. So I'm going to put this on this same pan because it saves me using another pan. Just a tiny bit of, thank you very much, tiny bit of salt and pepper. I should have done this before. Don't ever cut parchment paper like that with your mother present anyway. On the, so look, there we are. Nice. It's going to make a little parcel basically. Tiny bit of lemon in there. On top, just like that. Bit of pepper. And a tiny bit of salt, which I've got somewhere. Somewhere. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We're not very organized, are we?
This keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to just wrap this up like this.
This is whitefish as well.
Yep.
We haven't talked much about whitefish, and I just love the oily fish, and it's got so many different compounds. But the whitefish is going to have some oil in it, but it's also helpful for a lot of us as far as easy protein to digest as well.
Yeah. We could easily do it. Would work perfectly with cod or with hake or with green. So it's going to go in this, and then it's going to go in the oven over there, please, Mimi. Let's put it in. So you'll notice I'm doing it with a pan, but it's just as good. Don't need to put on yourself. So while that salmon's in the oven, I'm going to make one of my most favorite sauces ever. And that is Salsa Verde. It's an Italian, classic Italian sauce, really great with fish and actually also with chicken, with pork. It's just brilliant. It's got everything. It's the equivalent, the British equivalent would be mint sauce, but this has got, because it's got vinegar in it as well. This has got basil. Can you see all that? Visible?
Smell fantastic.
Doesn't it smell?
Now, that's really interesting because I think the basil, close your eyes and smile.
Yeah.
By smiling from the beautiful aroma of basil, you've just switched on your immune system. So you've actually just suddenly felt the favour by helping your body just do that little bit more.
Well, I didn't know that.
Really interesting.
It's going to be about 6 minutes. Thank you very much. It's just as well there are a few other people around here. I'll tell you what would be really useful for people watching this is to say we're on this journey together, right, folks? And I'm learning, and Victoria's learning. We're all learning. And if you feel like we're missing a trick, or you would like to hear a different angle, or I'm going too fast or too slowly, or not being clear enough, just bang over a little chat message or write me a rude email.
So can I just come in here and just get really enthusiastic about some of these? So we've got the basil. That comes from the word basilica because the Romans thought it was so useful nutritionally. They called it basilica. So godly.
Godly. Oh, that's what it means.
Yeah. Then we've got mint. Is that right?
Yeah.
So mint is very antibacterial and antiviral. So they used to get a whole load of mint and rub down the tables that they were going to eat their meal from.
Really?
Yeah, to be able to support their
absolutely
digestive
wonderful.
system. Mint comes from the word nymph, from a story where Hades had a little bit of an affair with a nymph, and the wife, the wife heard about it.
Yeah.
So it stampled it to the ground, and he felt so awful about it, he turned her into mint to be able to come up year after year.
Oh, that's very good.
What's the final one?
That's parsley.
Parsley, which we've talked about, and then of course we've got a wonderful garlic on the end.
Yeah. So,
which is anti-everything, really.
So I'm going to put all the ingredients we need for this on here.
The capers again being a herb.
Yeah.
Helpful for the digestive system.
They grow in little bushes. You don't see them very much in this country, but certainly in Italy, you see them growing out of walls. And they're tiny, they sort of cascade down. They're quite small leaves. And they're a bit like nasturtiums. They're from the same family. There we are. So I've got garlic, the 3 herbs. I've got some anchovies.
Now, this is really important, I think, because I think people forget of the great benefits of essential fatty acids and everything we've talked about, like the big boys, like mackerel and the sardines, masses of use from the anchovies as well. So I think you were saying, actually, you like them just on toast sometimes,
Yeah,
don't you?
I absolutely
But
love them.
also useful because if you're not quite sure, you're not really going down a fishy day, we can still get our roly fish in by putting it as part of the sauce.
I think I'd be willing to bet that most people watching this, probably George included. Do you like anchovies, George? You do. George is in the background there. He's washing up. But I love them. But they are, I mean, they're kind of umami. You know that thing, like Marmite, like certain things that have a sort of savouriness that's slightly more than just savoury.
Would you tend to look to buy them in the jar or tin? Do you have a preference?
I think probably a jar is. They tend to be slightly cheaper in the jar because you're getting more for your money. So I'm going to make a kind of paste out of these 3 ingredients: the capers, anchovy, and the garlic.
Could you just blitz that if you wanted?
You could, but I wouldn't, because by the time you've cleaned it out, I don't know. It's nice to do it on a lovely chopping board like this, and you can really see what you're doing. You can see what I'm doing as well, and I'm using the flat of the blade of the knife like this to get it.
Of course, it's all coming together nicely because they're already slightly oily, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And the salt in the anchovies is helping the garlic break down as well. So, yeah.
Tell us which foods help to increase white blood cell production.
One of the things I would look at for that is celery. So celery is often used for juicing, but actually celery used on a regular basis, there has been some research behind supporting white blood cells. So that's one to start off with. And then again, looking at white blood cells, beetroot could be helpful because beetroot is going to support you in lots of different ways. It's useful for iron, it's useful for the heart, but also for the white blood cells as well. So 2 ideas, not the magic foods, they're not sort of the miracle for increasing, but certainly 2 foods to try to utilize.
What about fennel? If celery does it, is fennel?
Yeah, I think it would be. I think it's that family, but celery more so that those projects have been on.
Yeah.
But people forget about fennel. Fennel is also very helpful, of course, for dispelling wind. So if you're a bit gassy through treatment, then fennel or fennel seeds. I think you're using fennel seeds, aren't you, later?
I am, and fennel.
So, yeah, fennel.
Yeah.
Fennel, caraway, and cumin seeds are all quite helpful for dispelling wind if you're feeling a bit bloated as well.
Great.
So what have we been doing since I saw that? Seems to come together brilliantly.
It's just I've chopped those 3 herbs along with the other 3 ingredients. So I've got basil, mint, parsley, capers, garlic, and anchovies. And now I'm going to put
and aroma. That is
and that
beautiful.
smell. It's a lovely smell, isn't it? So I'm going to put some mustard in here.
Which one?
It's just ordinary Dijon mustard, like that. I'm going to put some lemon juice. Good squeeze of lemon juice. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper. You could put some red wine vinegar in, but I'm just going to keep it really clean and simple. And some olive oil like that. All on the chopping board. And I could tell you, I'm going to give some of this to Victoria and see what she says. Because what I know about herbs is that the fresher you can eat them, yeah, brilliant. The better they're going to taste and the better they are for you. The moment you break down any vegetable or anything, really, anything that you eat, it's beginning to, I'm going to use the word decompose. It's not the right word, but it's going to not taste as absolutely wonderful.
It's going to lose its bitter.
It's going to lose. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So one of the things I often do with classes here is to make sure that everybody, when I make this, has a little tiny mouthful of it just after it's been made. They make their own. So when you make this sauce, there you are, Victoria. When you make this sauce, do that. Just have a little tiny bit of bread and then and try it.
It's lovely.
Isn't it? Is it good?
It's good. But it also helps with the lemon to distinguish the flavors. Using lemon, lime, often to help you, just to help your body recognize, or your taste buds recognize the flavors going on. Okay.
So there we are. Very simply baked salmon. I'm going to just scoot off onto the side like that. Oops, didn't know how messy that was. I'm going to use a clean plate. There we are. And I'm going to put a little bit of Salsa Verde on here and put the rest somewhere else. So
So
good big dollop like that.
storing it in the fridge, how long, or freezing it?
Just in the fridge. I wouldn't freeze this. I would keep it for no more than 3 days. I'd make this and eat it. That's what you've got to do. Think about the immediacy of the flavors that you're going to get.
The sauce, of course, could be used up in a lot of different ways the next day with different
Yeah,
foods. It doesn't
it
have to
certainly
be
could.
salmon.
Can I give this to you, Mina? Pass me that other chopping board down there. And that can be put in a little ramekin would be great. Yeah.
When John's cooking veg in a microwave, kill the essential vegetables rather than cooking on the stove. And can you talk about the best way to when cooking food?
Right. I think if I work backwards, I think people often will ask that question: am I going to decrease nutrients if that is not raw food, or should it be slow cooked, etc.? Actually, as science has gone on, it's actually understood that there are some nutrients which are better absorbed if they're raw, some nutrients that are better absorbed if they're cooked. So if I give an example of a tomato salad, absolutely fantastic for your vitamin D. Cook the tomatoes, you're going to lose some of the vitamin C, rich in vitamin C, but actually the lycopene, which is a very interesting and important antioxidant, becomes more readily available to us. So I think where we're going as far as variety is concerned, it's not just as the variety, and I think you would say so too.
Yeah,
It's not just the variety of foods, it's actually the variety of way of cooking them.
Yeah.
Because that's going to have an effect according to the nutrient value as well.
And I would say, in addition to that, that the most beneficial way of cooking a potato in terms of health is baking it in its skin. Keeps everything in there. Same with almost all root vegetables, carrots, beetroot especially benefits from baking whole. In fact, I might put some ideas of that through, because we did talk about vegetables a couple of sessions ago, but I think that it given just how important they are in our diet anyway, there's so much in all of them. But what I know is that the less you do to dilute the flavors and the benefits through water or even steam, the better.
So with that microwave side of things,
Yeah,
I think it's important to use the microwave if you're poorly. Much better to ask somebody to cook something for you and just heat it up if that is necessary. But it does take the vitality of the food away. It also will not develop an aroma, and smelling your food before you eat it, or the aroma that goes through preparing your food, is actually going to set up phase 1 of your digestive system. And that's actually going to help you along the way as well. So smelling your food is a very important side. It's sad when it's not particularly there because it's in a little box. The other thing is with microwaving, the research is actually quite difficult to actually navigate your way through. And if you are ever going to use a microwave, you do have to wait. You know, when it says perhaps you're using a ready-made milk in the microwave and it says let it stand for 2.5 minutes, that's really important. You do not want to be eating that straight out of the microwave before the 2.5 minutes of
Why not?
because of the radiation. So you shouldn't be
Right.
standing in front of
Oh,
your
gosh.
microwave, and you should be waiting.
But yes, no, it's funny because I've always been really anti microwaves, but I've learned, I think the modern view is that It's a pretty energy efficient way of cooking.
It is, and it's important and useful in its way, but I certainly would never turn around and say, oh, just use a microwave then.
Yeah,
because
or instead of other
Yeah.
sources of oven heat. Yeah, yeah, it doesn't
It has its
produce.
place.
Yeah, it has its place. I agree, and it's really quick for just heating things up, isn't it? And especially when you're lacking energy and so on. Okay, the next thing I'm going
what are
to
you
do
doing?
is sardines on toast.
Whoopee,
You
love that.
can't- You can't get simpler than sardines on toast. I've just put a slice of bread in there in the toaster. And I know it's pretty obvious what I'm going to do, but some people, when they do sardines on toast, will drain off the oil. So I'm not saying you're going to use all the oil, but it is good for you, the oil that's in this tin. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it on the plate like this, just pretty well whole, while while the toast is toasting, bread is toasting. And I'm going to chop up meanwhile. There we are.
One of the things I probably would say here is that it's important to get your calcium from your vegetables, etc. But actually, if you do buy sardines with their bones in, then I would encourage you to do that rather than boneless.
Yeah. Yeah, because the bones become, there we are. Just do it just a little bit more that side, I think. As you probably know, when you eat sardines with bones in them, the bones aren't like bones of a mackerel or a fresh fish. They've kind of broken down into that kind of chalky, quite easy to eat.
And it's nice to come to the watercress. I'm a great believer in trying
So,
pretty
yeah,
much
this is
every
watercress.
day to have something bitter, pungent and sour in your diet. Bitter, pungent and sour really helps to support your liver, which is actually doing around about 500 different biochemical functions on your behalf every day, working particularly hard if you're poorly. So watercress, where we would have had in the past watercress trains going around all the country, we don't do that anymore. Rocket was so pungent during the course of medieval years, it was banned from all monasteries because they didn't think monks should experience anything so pungent.
Really?
So bitter and pungent are being bred out in the 21st century. We need to make sure we use
they
them
come back
on a
in.
regular basis. It's a very, very important aspect to the base camp, if you like, to nutrition.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I love it for its pepperiness, and also the texture of watercress is just brilliant, I think.
Good for soup too.
Yeah, definitely.
So what have we got? We've had the toast.
Got the toast. A little bit of butter on there. Not quite that much.
Which is me.
I would if I was on my own hiding away. I'd put probably twice as much, but I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But this is a meal. I'm going to say this is a meal. This size, this piece of bread, this size. And here we are.
The bitterness is going to take some of the pungency away as well, isn't it? From the
Yeah.
sorry, the bitterness is going to take some of the oiliness away from the fish.
Yes, it will. There we are. A whole tin of sardines, ready for a kind of feast. And I've got to put some lemon on it. I mean, the fact is that fish and lemon are partners made in heaven, aren't they? Or marriage made in heaven, whatever it is. And also pepper. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit of that oil on top.
Just do a little bit of chili flakes. or
Chili
paprika.
flakes. I'm up for that.
If you find chili a little bit too strong for you at the moment and your digestion can't do it, then a sprinkling of paprika would do a similar nutrient job. But I always say chili is a bit gung-ho. Paprika does the things a little bit more cuddly.
Yes. Yes, I could have done paprika. We might have some paprika when I finish off the smoked mackerel pate.
So we've got our fifth one coming up now.
Yeah, we
Fish
have,
stew.
which is a fish stew. So I discovered this when I was in India, and also how quick it is to do it. It takes about 10, 15. How long have we got, by the way? It takes as long as we've got left.
Yeah, until 6.
5:45. So I'm going to just bring up all these ingredients. This is a lovely dish It's quick, simple, but as with, oh, I need some coriander, George, out of the fridge. You could find me a little bit out of the fridge, yes. So it's, yes, please. So it's got ginger, it's got chili, it's got tomatoes, it's got peppers.
Peppers are one of the most nutrient-dense foods we can eat, which I always find is quite intriguing since we cut it and it's hollow. But it's a lot going on.
Is it? And what
how
about
does it
the
digest if it's green? Because a
Right.
lot of green ones are
Right.
unlike red ones, aren't they?
and what about the raw versus cooked thing?
I would say offhand, there's probably going to be some nutrients which are going to be better absorbed cooked than raw.
That's pass it. I think they. If you bring all the herbs, I'll have a look. I love them. I didn't used to like them raw, but I like them raw now.
They act as quite good crudities like that, don't they?
I agree.
You've got some turmeric going in as well?
Yep. It's got quite a lot going on, so you need to get all these things sort of organized and putting them all here. Well
Don't
in
be put
advance.
off by that though, because if you
No.
haven't got something, it's going to work without all being there. So can I just talk through some of these?
Yes, please.
We've talked about ginger, chili, tomatoes, cooked tomatoes being really helpful for the lycopene, particularly helpful for research looking at prostate cancer. Turmeric, again, a lot of research going behind that for its anti-inflammatory properties. For anything itis, really, so colitis, cancer is an inflammatory condition, arthritis, aspect. So turmeric can be really helpful. I would always recommend the use of turmeric rather than the curcumin within the turmeric, which has been the one that's researched. Mustard seed,
Yep.
again, a good bitter, pungent element that we could use. And then we've got the fennel seeds, which as I've already said, helpful for dispelling wind. And a little bit of coriander, which actually is in Latin, it's called bug-like coriander, because it actually, when it's growing, it can smell a little bit like bugs, apparently. That's what the Romans thought.
Really?
But again, a very helpful digestive aid. I think with the herbs and spices, it's so lovely working with Barney because you're embracing them all, and it's great for their flavor, but herbs and spices are so rich as far as nutrient value is concerned, and if it's a culinary herb, it's going to have a digestive benefit to us. That's why they're in there. That's why the Romans and the Greeks worked so hard at them, because they were so important for our digestive system.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, as you know, Victoria, I'm not nutritionally trained, but after a while, the more you mess around with food, fresh raw ingredients, the more you realize, you sort of begin to understand that
Follow your
that
intuition.
You follow your intuition,
Which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to do.
A wooden spoon, please, George. Thank you. I didn't come at all equipped.
So quite a high heat or what?
So that's kind of
Nice to hear the sizzle.
about 6. I'm going to get that garlic a little bit brown. Can you see that? Just a little bit browned, and the same with the. That's it. Thank you very much, George. Then I'm going to put the spices in, and the ginger, and the fresh chili. Here we go with the fennel, the turmeric. This is how quick it all is. It's terribly quick. Perhaps not quite as much as that.
How do you choose between green and red chili?
I would use either. I just didn't have any red.
Okay,
I was going
fine.
to use green, but I just didn't have any. So you see, this is beginning to look rather lovely, all sort of golden from the turmeric. It smells lovely. The turmeric smells so good. The turmeric and the ginger have a fantastic combination of it brings something quite special overall flavour. So I'm also going to put, as well
That's
as
smelling through warmth as well now.
yeah, that's really lovely. I'm going to put some fennel in here as well. This is I know you were talking about celery earlier, and I could put celery in it. I could put leeks, but I'm going to just put a little bit of fennel. and keep it quite so that it's going to be quite crunchy at the end. And you could also put potatoes in it. As you'll see in the recipes when I send them to you tomorrow, it gives you various options. I always think with cooking with anything, be brave and just if you think you've got a particular vegetable that you might think would go, just go with your gut instinct, and probably you're going to be right. So, tiny bit more oil there. That is almost ready for a key ingredient, which is
Good old
coconut milk.
I was just thinking you could use a little bit of coconut fat to this. as
Yeah,
well, didn't you?
yeah,
To intensify it.
yeah. I love coconut milk.
Actually, with the coconut fat, that might be a useful little tip. In that at Brohn, we often try to offer up some ideas through various conditions. People can get mouth ulcers very easily through treatment. If you take a good teaspoon of coconut fat and wish it around your mouth for several minutes, spit it out. It actually leaves a lovely taste in your mouth, but it also is incredibly cleansing. And time again, we've seen ulcers improve tremendously quickly within a couple of days just by doing that several times a day.
Really?
Yeah, it's very helpful.
I didn't know. That's brilliant.
And it's nothing better, I think, than cooking with coconut milk.
It's a very soft and
Yes, it is.
sort of comforting ingredient, I think. So this is getting to look quite lovely, isn't it? So that all those reds and greens
It's very light.
and yellows. So I'm going to let that cook a tiny bit more. And I'm going to show you the fish that we're going to put in here. So I've got a sort of classic fish stew mix. So you could go in other directions than. Oh, I forgot to put the tomatoes in, which is well I just saw them there. To make it even more, look at that. That does look rather gorgeous. What do you think? Can you see that, guys? It's very, very pretty, kind of Christmassy in a way, isn't it? The red stuff. But we let it just sit there and steam
You've got some
away.
prawns in there as well.
So I got some prawns. I've got some hake and some salmon.
Prawns being particularly rich as far as zinc is concerned, which is very important for our immune system. They're uncooked, but you could throw in right at the end, I presume, some
Yes,
right.
you absolutely could. These were, yeah. So I'm going to start putting the fish in now. Cut into sort of bite-sized pieces, so they'll all cook more or less at the same time.
Of course, what we haven't mentioned this evening is the wonderful benefit of vitamin D from our fish as well. We've mentioned about the minerals coming from it, useful digestible protein. We've got the calcium, and the zinc, but the vitamin D, incredibly important to us for our bones and teeth and for supporting on cancer and other conditions. Very easy from fish and eggs, but apart from that, quite difficult to get from the plant kingdom. And we need a bit of sunshine, and we're not going to get much, I don't think, for the next couple of months.
Yes, that's it's a big one coming into. I remember when I had my my cancer, coming into winter was really tough, and it is tough anyway, generally speaking. But I think when your immune system is slightly battered by treatment, and when you really crave sunshine, and I just wanted to go off.
And that's a bit of a sunshine dish.
Yeah, it is. And it also is India as well, of course. So you can just imagine yourself in the great Indian Ocean off Tamil Nadu.
But that memory from the food does evoke a happy memory, and that just goes back again to the mind-body-spirit connection that food's able to offer us.
Yeah.
If you're happy memories, another question is, which foods can help with low moods?
Vitamin D, foods including vitamin D. Because sometimes, particularly, we can get what's called SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and that's literally from your lacking of vitamin D. So I would look at colour, and I would look at vitamin D rich foods. And foods, if you look it up, including serotonin, can also really help as far as mood is concerned. Bit of cheese, for example. And cocoa powder is a good one, which is why we want chocolate. So
what's
powder,
actually going on there though?
it's
When
basically
you're feeling a bit
by
miserable,
yeah.
so you take a spoonful of chocolate, or
That's
No.
what you'd like, isn't it? No, I think that again, it's following your intuition. But cocoa or cacao,
yeah,
really high as far as an antioxidant is concerned, and that can actually then affect the various pathways, if you like. But one of them being that feel-good factor,
yeah,
the mind. So quality chocolate, and we're talking about cacao, cocoa. I'm looking at 70, 85, 90% cocoa chocolate, not your Milky Way, which is basically sugar, which might give you a little bit of a lift. But then you're going to feel down from it afterwards because it's too much for that, too much sugar. So we're really talking, when we're talking about chocolate,
yeah.
we're talking about cacao, good quality chocolate where cocoa is the first ingredient rather than sugar. And actually, that's going to help to re-educate your taste buds accordingly, and you won't want to be having
No,
high sugar aspects. I sometimes look back and I think, how ever did I eat a chocolate Cadbury's cream egg?
no, they're so horrible. It's the
But
worst thing.
at that level, I could do it because that's where I educated myself
Yeah.
in food taste. So
Yeah,
it's just about education, really.
it does. It's surprising, and you begin to sort of adapt to.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
It's not about sophistication, but it is something about. I used to love Cadbury's cream eggs, but I could never have
No.
one now.
And that's
even-
not being righteous. It's just that
No.
you've re-educated your taste buds.
Yeah.
What have you been chopping up then here, Bonnie?
I've got some coriander, which is going to go in that fish stew in a minute, but I just wanted to mention a couple of other things. In the recipes that you're going to get will be one for tinned salmon or fresh salmon cakes. Really, really easy and lovely. You might remember, and if you didn't get this, if you're new to this program, I did a sort of healthy tomato sauce. It's got celery, carrot. It's also got some sweet potato and other things in it. But it's basically like a tomato sauce that you put on pasta. And as a basis for so many things, whether they're stews and so on and so on. Also, there's a lovely dish called puttanesca in Italian. And it's basically anchovies in a rich tomato sauce with some chili and also those lovely capers which were around earlier on. So I'm not going to make that sauce because it's so easy, but it's great with pasta. It's great with rice.
Does it freeze, man?
It freezes really well. And the other thing about it's really good with whole grain rice and whole grain pasta, sort of whole meal pasta, I mean, because it's very rich in flavor, kind of really flavorsome, and it carries the whole meal and whole grain rice really well.
What you could do with that then, if you were doing pasta, maybe with some spaghetti and buy some sea spaghetti and use half pasta, half sea spaghetti being seaweed, and do it like that. That would go really well with the tomato sauce with a few pumpkin seeds toasted on the top.
Mm.
I think this is almost there, so I'm going to just add some of this coriander here, and then just one final twist, which is a little bit of fresh lime and the zest, because that's what you suggested I should put in. Just a little bit of zest as well, which if I'd been sensible, I would have
Done that first.
I promise you, I didn't move the grater.
So here's, if you haven't got a grater, here's how you do the zest. You just get really thin strips. None of the pithy bits, just the zest like that. It's as if you were making a dry martini for James Bond. Shake and not stir, but that's what they should look like, just like that. It's going to be what I reckon the new James Bond's not going to drink a dry martini, though, are they? What are they going to drink? They probably drink carrot
Kombucha.
juice. Kombucha. Yeah, they will. That's it. So I'm just putting a little bit of that in there. Put it back on for about another 10 seconds. And get all these other dishes there. See what they all get. So we've got that.
So are we
Let's
clearing
see.
the desk, are
We're
we?
going to just bring everything to the
Oh, look,
front.
here's
I
the
think.
brochure.
Oh, it was. Right.
Can I remove the chopping board?
Yes, do. There we are. That's the salmon. And this is the mackerel. Of course, they're all a bit cool now, but you get the drift. And then you want to put the sauce on at the last minute, just like that, at the very last minute, so that the skin remains nice and crisp and crunchy. But it is so lovely. I can smell it. It goes, and it's perfect with fresh mackerel.
But the beauty of this is it is nice hot or cold. No,
Yeah.
I'm quite happy with cold mackerel like that.
I'm just going to put, I need one more bowl, maybe like this, whoops, like that, thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to, or will I? Maybe I'm just gonna,
I think that looks lovely.
I
like
think that looks lovely like that,
Rustic.
doesn't it? Let's leave it in the pan.
I think it's beautifully light and rustic.
It does, doesn't it? I think it looks, and it smells really lovely. We might just have to try a little bit of that liquor,
Good.
see what you think.
Light.
Is it nice?
A little bit more lemon, I would say, or lime.
A bit more
or the other.
lime?
To me.
Yep, I agree. Touch more salt as well, perhaps, just a tiny bit. I think a bit more lemon, actually. Let's put a little bit of lemon in here. Lemon, lime, not orange juice, probably. Lime and lemon. Grapefruit juice? No. There we are. And the sardines on toast. I just think that's it's a really great lunch. It's very simple and very comforting and incredibly good for you.
And also nice because I've brought that into conversation so many times in a one-to-one consultation, and it's like, oh yeah, well I like sardine. Is that okay? Is it good?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
brilliant.
it is.
Pat on the back.
Yeah. So I hope some of this has been useful. It's been really great getting these questions, and it's giving me a thought. We're going to talk about it, Victoria, about perhaps having a bit more preparation in that area. And if you have any ideas for what we might look at in the future, please let us know. This is very much a, as I said, it's a sort of work in progress type project, and we're really up for hearing from you what your concerns are, what your ideas are, and so on.
I think there's a poll just at the end if we could perhaps do that if you could for us. And yeah, I would say fish is great because it's just useful for so many items. Your essential fatty acids, your vitamin D, your protein, your phosphorus, your minerals, generally speaking, for your B vitamins, for your energy. Magnesium, which is incredibly important relaxant for the body as well, and balancing your blood sugar levels. The list goes on and on. The most important thing is to have fun with it and put as much colour in as you can with it as well. Should we talk about next month?
Yes, so we're going to do
13th of December is the date.
13th of December. We're going to do the alternative to vegetables, which is meat. And we've been thinking a lot about this. We're considering doing venison, because I think game is a really sustainable source of meat protein. And we're going to do something with leftover turkey and lamb. I think that's what we're going to do. Isn't it?
We decided.
Lots of kind of obviously quite seasonal dishes. But I know also that although meat is incredibly good for us, when I first was diagnosed with cancer, lots of people said, don't eat meat.
Yes, and I would say
stay clear of it.
Sometimes people want black and white, and nutrition isn't about that. So you need to actually understand your background, your lifestyle, the condition that you've got. And I think that sometimes, and I've often said this in my it's not the food that's a problem. Sometimes it's the emphasis on the plate, which is a hassle. So too much meat, not going to be helpful.
No.
But when you know and you've got intuition with food and you actually understand some of the components that are coming from your meat, and it can be jolly helpful.
Yeah.
to us.
I think that's really good that you said that. So I think we'll look very much at portions
Yep.
when we come to do the
Quality.
meat. And what
Grass
else,
fed.
what can go with it? Yes, the quality is absolutely critical as far as I'm concerned.
And how you can make a little go a long way.
Go exactly using broths. It's all the rage now. Bone broths, aren't they? So we'll have a little look at that as well.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, thank you all very much. See you next month.
And see you next month. And so you've all got a month to tell other people about us, about the project, and the more the merrier.
Yeah, indeed. See you
Thank
soon.
you very much.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye. Bye bye.